So let's start our discussion on identity. Well, if you have a look at the definition of the identity, identity is nothing but a digital representation of a person. We should not treat human beings as the only identities. It is a digital representation of person, human beings, applications, and devices, which requires secure access. Now, in a cybersecurity landscape, the human beings are always treated as the weakest link because most of the compromise starts with credential theft. Once the identity gets compromised, eventually the endpoint used by the identity gets compromised, and all the apps installed within that particular endpoint under the context of that particular identity gets compromised. So it is essential for us to offer protection at an identity level. We have got like plenty solutions in Microsoft space which offers protection at an identity level. Number one, let's start with the authentication. We have got three different types of authentications. We have got SFA, single factor authentication, which is absolutely a no-no, it's bad. Then we have got this multi-factor authentication, which is to a certain degree, yes, it is okay. But the best authentication or the most secure authentication is offered by passwordless authentication by implementing things like Hello Windows Hello or FIDO version 2.0 fast identity online. So this is one way of offering protection at an identity level. Then we have got things like Microsoft Defender for Identity. Now, Microsoft Defender for Identity is something which we get as a part of our Defender XDR subscription. The name of the subscription is Defender XDR, which generally comes with Microsoft 365 Enterprise 5 subscription. If you do not have this Enterprise 5 subscription, E5 subscription, M365 E5 subscription, if you have got E3, M365 E3, then you can purchase the E5 security add-ons. If you have purchased E5 add-ons or if you have got M365 E5, you get something known as Defender XDR. And as a part of this Defender XDR, we get a couple of micro components or services rather. They are MDE, which is Defender for Endpoint. It is a solution which protects the devices, endpoints. When we are talking about endpoints, we are not talking about desktops, laptops. We are talking about mobile devices, and it also includes endpoint. Also includes your IDS, IPS devices, intrusion detection system, intrusion prevention systems like firewall, checkpoint appliances, and all. Then, as a part of Defender XDR, we get Microsoft Defender for Office 365 that offers protection at Office 365 app level. We will also have access to MDCA, Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps, which will offer protection at an app level. Now, you might be wondering, so what is the difference between MDO and Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps? Well, MDO, which you get as a part of Defender XDR, will offer protection at Office 365 apps level only, like SharePoint Online, Teams Online, Exchange Online. But a typical organization will end up using other cloud applications like Salesforce, Dynamics 365. Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps will offer protection at that level. We will also get something as a part of Microsoft Defender XDR is MDI, and that is the focus of this particular slide. MDI stands for Microsoft Defender for Identity. It is a solution which offers protection at an identity level. So pretty much all you need to do is you will have to download the agent from the Microsoft Defender for Identity portal. Then you will have to install the agent on across your all domain controllers. And from that point onwards, your domain controllers will be forwarding the security logs to Defender for Identity. And as and when threat gets detected, incident gets generated in Defender for Identity, and the Security Operations Center specialists will perform investigation, which will finally lead to remediation. Things like, for instance, a couple of things which are picked up by Defender for Identity will be number one, let's say I've got enough privilege. I've been trusted in the organization, but I'm doing something wrong which I'm not supposed to do. Like, for instance, let's say I have run or executed certain DNS command with the intention of transferring the DNS zone from the proper DNS server to a rogue DNS server. Or maybe let's say I've got some sort of a bad intention. I've set up a Windows server. I've promoted this to a domain controller, and now I've initialized, the replication. We have got the intra-site replication. We have got inter-site replication, and doing that, the rogue domain controller which I've deployed will have a synchronized copy of my organizational Active Directory, which is nothing but a database having a name of ntds.tid. Microsoft Defender for Identity will pick up insider attacks as well. So there are different policies that can be configured in Defender for Identity to detect the insider attack. Now there is another security solution, which is an Azure native security solution. Okay. This Defender for Identity is not an Azure native solution. You'll have to purchase the subscription, Defender XDR, then only you will get Defender for Identity. But if you have got Entra ID Premium 2 subscription, you will have something known as Entra ID Protection. Now, there's a difference between, there are many differences, but one of the most important differences between MDI and Defender for Entra ID Protection is, well, Defender for Identity will detect any threat at an identity level. It does not matter if the identity is trying to consume any on-premises resources or a cloud-based resources. The incident gets detected. But Entra ID protection has been designed for the cloud resources only. Like for instance, let's say I've got bad intention, and what I've done is I've decided to open SharePoint Online from my PC, and maybe I've got some sort of VPN anonymizer installed on my PC because the intention is to hide my original IP address. Or maybe the request has come from my machine, and my machine has got an IP address which happens to be a well-known Tor exit node. Or maybe I've decided to open or connect to Teams online using Tor browser, which is used to access dark web. Or maybe another example could be I've tried to access SharePoint online from Australian geography, but after a couple of minutes, the same request is coming out of my system having an IP address which belongs to a different geography. So within that duration, within that 5-10 minutes duration, it is not possible for someone to travel that far. Well, and at the same time, let's say I've decided to access some sort of on-premises resources from my machine. And same thing, maybe I've got some sort of VPN anonymizer installed on my machine. Defender for Identity will capture both, whether you're trying to access something on-prem or whether you're trying to access something from the cloud. But Entra ID protection will only detect threats as long as you're trying to consume the cloud level resources, accessing SharePoint online, connecting to Teams, accessing, let's say, Dynamics 365. That's the difference. This Entra ID protection comes with a lot of different features, but the core features are it comes with two policies and two reports. The policies are user risk policy and the sign-in risk policy, and the reports are user risk report and the sign-in risk report. These policies, the user risk policy and the sign-in risk policies, are not turned on by default. It has to be turned on. Now, if you turn on the user risk report, it will try to detect all the users at risk. If you turn on the sign-in risk report, it will try to detect all the risky sign-in attempts, and as and when they are detected, the reports will reflect those changes. This Entra ID protection is not only a threat detection platform, it is a threat remediation platform as well. I mean, if a particular user who is at a risk or if a risky user gets detected, you can take a call. You can either block the user account or give the user access as long as the user goes through the multi-factor authentication process. Same deal with the sign-in risk policy. If you turn on the sign-in risk policy, it will proactively monitor all the risky sign-in attempts, and you can take an action. You can either like block the user account or allow the user account provided the user goes through multi-factor authentication, resets the password, and so on, goes through the Microsoft Authenticator app, and so on. So it is not only a threat detection, it's a threat remediation platform as well. The other thing which we have got as a part of Entra is Entra ID Conditional Access Policy, which is also termed as Entra ID CAP, Conditional Access Policy. Entra ID Conditional Access Policy relies on a fact, and the fact is simply we have given you an employee badge. That does not mean you will be trusted always. Simply we have given you an organizational device. That does not mean you are trustworthy. What if you have got bad intentions? You have decided to install VPN anonymizer on your organizational devices, or maybe in your organization you have got enough privileges, but you're trying to perform something which is not sort of legal. You should not do this. We call it as a shadow IT. Shadow IT is a mechanism where someone having elevated privilege will try to perform something which they're not supposed to do. Okay. Misutilization of privileges. So with the conditional access policy, we can grant you access on the basis of a condition. So the foundation or the principle of conditional access policy goes like this. It does not matter from which device you're using or you're trying to consume something from which device, does not matter. And how you're connecting does not matter. Are you trying to connect using a browser? Are you trying to connect from your phone? Are you trying to connect from your PC using an app? It does not matter from which location you're trying to connect in. Trusted location, which is not trusted locations, can be like VPN services or connecting using express route services, private link, trustworthy locations. And then we have got untrusted locations like hotspots, public Wi-Fi, and so on. It does not matter from which location you're trying to access. We will always monitor your request. If we find any kind of risky user related activities associated with your attempt, or if we find any risky sign in attempts, then we will block your access. We can block the access, but sometimes what happens is block will not be a very feasible approach because sometimes there will be false positives. The user might get blocked unnecessarily. But we have got alternate solutions. Rather, instead of blocking the user, you can grant the user access provided the user meets certain conditions, provided the user goes to the multi-factor authentication, provided the user uses a device which has been marked compliant in Intune, as long as the user is using a device which has been Entra ID joined, and so on. This is not the complete list. We have talked about intra ID protection, conditional access policy, enforcing MFA. These are the three main things with the help of which we can protect identities. But there are plenty other solutions available within the Microsoft space with the help of which identities can be protected and the threat identity related threats can be mitigated.